Sabi nga ni Ma, para wala na po akong i-report. It will be just a summary of what we learned from last session until today. So I was tasked to discuss with you the nucleic acids as its structure and function. So here is our lesson content that we need to arrive at the end. So yesterday I was browsing my Facebook and I saw this one. It's a meme. What did the DNA wife ask her DNA husband before they went out? What do you think is the answer? What did the DNA wife ask her DNA husband before they went out? So, here's the answer. Unzip your jeans. That's why we are here, and I am here to present with you my report. Okay. Let's go with the history of nucleic acids. So who do you think discovered nucleic acids? Anyone from the group? You can unmute your mic, ma'am, sir. Actually, it was very good. It's Friedrich Miescher. DNA was discovered in 1869 by a Swiss biochemist Friedrich Miescher. He wanted to determine the chemical composition of leukocytes, or what we call your white blood cells. And at that time, his source of white blood cells was a pus, or nana, from a fresh surgical bandages. Although initially interested in all the components of the cell, Miescher quickly focused on the nucleus because he observed that when treated with acid, a precipitate was formed, which he called then a nuclein. Again, he called it a nuclein. Almost all molecular bioscience graduates at that time would have repeated a form of this experiment in the laboratory classes where DNA is isolated from the cells. Miescher, Richard Altman, and Albert Kossel further characterized this nuclein, and then later on, it was changed to the name nucleic acid by Altman. So, work in the 1930s from many scientists further characterized nucleic acids, including the identification of the 4 bases and the presence of deoxyribose, hence the name deoxyribonucleic acid. So there are 2 types of nucleic acid. One is your DNA and the other one is your RNA. So let's go to the first, to the primary structure of your nucleic acid. So what do you call the building blocks of nucleic acid? What do you call the building blocks? Which is composed... Nucleotides. Very good. It is your nucleotides. This is composed of your nitrogenous base, your sugar, and of course, your phosphate. So this is the illustration. It's a simplified illustration of our nucleotides or your nucleic acids. Now, here is the basic nucleotide structure, which was discussed by Sir Peter in the first session. Now, also this one, we all know, parang sirang plaka na pong paulit-ulit, yung purine at saka pyrimidines. Purines and pyrimidines are 2 types of nitrogenous bases that make up the building blocks of nucleic acids such as your DNA and RNA. The purines, or what you call that includes the adenine and guanine, have a Turing structure consisting of 9-membered molecule with 4 nitrogen atoms, as you can see in the figure. The pyrimidines, cytosine, uracil, and thymine only have 1 single ring. So this one, which has just 6 members and 2 nitrogen atoms. So this is the first component of your nucleotide, which is your nitrogen or nitrogenous bases. Let's go to your sugar. What do you call the combination of sugar and base? What do you call the combination of the sugar and base? This is a nucleoside, SIDE. All the bases are attached to the corresponding pentose sugar by what bond?
Glycosidic bond, sir.
Very good. We have mentioned this one last meeting. It is the beta-N glycosidic bond between the first carbon of the pentose and, of course, the N9 prime of a purine or the N1 prime of a pyrimidine. So here are the sugar, the structure for the different nitrogenous bases. Now, for the component phosphate, nucleotides may have a single phosphate group or a chain of up to 3 phosphate groups attached to the 5 carbon of the sugar. When this group forms a blank with the CHOH group of a nucleoside, the result is a compound known as nucleotides. So what is that one?
Phosphoester bond po.
That is the phosphate ester bond. So the sugar, let's move to the sugar phosphate backbone. When a blank is formed, the 5' phosphate of the incoming nucleotide attaches to the 3' hydroxyl group at the end of the growing chain. What do you think is the missing word? That is
Phosphodiester.
A polynucleotide. And then these nucleoside linkages are called blank and are the same in RNA and DNA. What do you? It is the phosphodiester bond. So that is the different components of the nucleotides, the phosphodiester bond, the nucleotides, and the sequence of the nitrogenous base. The structure of the nucleic acid is often divided into 3 different levels. The primary, which was discussed a while ago, the secondary, and the tertiary structure. Now, for the primary structure, it is a linear sequence of nucleotides, which is also considered as the backbone of the molecule. The primary structure refers to the sequence of nucleotides read from 5' to 3'. This notation is essential because DNA and RNA is always synthesized and then it is read in the direction during cellular processes like replication and transcription. So we maintain the direction of the 5' to the 3' based on cellular processes like replication and transcription. So let us summarize for the primary structure. The first one is the nucleotides, then the phosphodiester backbone, and finally, the sequence of nitrogenous bases. Let's go to the secondary structure. The secondary structure is the three-dimensional shape of a nucleic acid. The nucleotides in the secondary structure and one-strand base pairs with the nucleotide and the other strand. This will bring us to the hydrogen bonding, which yield to the double helical structure of your DNA. So in 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick established the three-dimensional structure of DNA. DNA is composed of two strands entwined around each other in a double helix structure. But I believe not all in our session last week, not all DNA has a double helical structure. Now, Erwan Chargaad had found that DNA molecules from a particular species always contained the same amount of the bases cytosine and guanine and the same amount of adenine and thymine. So for example, the human genome contains 20% cytosine. Therefore, there is also a 20% guanine. Likewise, if the human genome is composed of 30% adenine, surely there is 30% thymine. This may be emphasized on the pairing of these nitrogenous bases. Now, here is the set sugar phosphate backbone, the set of interactions between the bases. So yung C paired with G, C paired with G, G paired with C, and the like. So another a structure that forms when a single-stranded nucleic acid folds back on itself to create a stem and loop formation. The stem consists of complementary base pairs while the loop is a non-paired region. So these are other secondary structure for our nucleic acid. Another is this one, the cross-like configuration. Found in DNA, this occurs when inverted repeats and opposite strands form a cross-like configuration with each arm consisting of a stem loop structure. So this is another structure of the DNA. And finally, the pseudoknot. What do you mean by pseudo? It's false, no? The pseudoknot, a secondary structure in RNA where a loop base pairs with a complementary region outside the loop, forming a knot-like structure. This is common in ribozymes and telomerase RNA. So again, for the secondary structure, let me summarize. The hydrogen bonding brought about the double helical structure of your DNA. Let's proceed with the tertiary structure of nucleic acid. It's the packing of DNA in the nucleus and, of course, the supercoiling. The tertiary structure of the DNA is a nucleosome is the basic structural unit of chromatin. It consists of a segment of DNA wrapped around a core of histone proteins, typically 8 histone proteins in a core particle. So let's try to have these different illustrations. DNA molecules in the nuclei coiled around basic protein molecules, and these are called your histones. Parang hindi ko naman alam kung saan yan dyan yung histones po. Sorry. Wrap around. Okay po. Now, the acidic DNA and the basic histones attract each other by electrostatic forces combining to form units called blank. What do you call this one? It's the nucleosomes. Correct me if I'm wrong. This one are the nucleosomes po. Right or wrong po mga ma'am sir? Itong mga naka-coil. Sorry po, I am not really. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yung mga yellow-orange.
Thank you, ma'am. So here is another diagram for, image for the tertiary structure, the further condensation of chromatin, and of course, the duplicated chromosome. Let's go to the plasticity and stability, or the hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonds form between the bases. The plasticity, or the ability to shape or molded, and stability of a nucleic acid depends on its sequence, conformation, hydration, and solution condition, and it's measured by temperature-dependent techniques, such as UV melting. Now, the bases are hydrophobic, so they try to avoid contact with water. This is because through their hydrophobic interactions, they stabilize the double helix. Another important concept is stacking. Stacking eliminates any gaps between the bases and excludes the maximum amount of water from the interior of the double helix. The aromatic structure of the DNA is hydrophobic and the phosphate backbone is hydrophilic. A DNA strand can be well dissolved in aqueous solution without phase separation because the charge of its phosphate backbones allows the DNA strands to repel each other and achieves a good dispersion. Now, how about reactivity? Who is more reactive? Is it the RNA or the DNA? RNA is generally considered more reactive than your DNA because RNA contains the ribose sugar, which has a hydroxyl group at the 2' carbon, making it more susceptible to hydrolysis. RNA is often single-stranded, which makes its bases more accessible in chemical reaction. And finally, RNA's roles in protein synthesis and regulation require it to be more adaptable and the reactive. The role of RNA in protein synthesis is very important. That's why the RNA adapts and becomes reactive. Now, let's go to the biological function of your nucleic acid. Well, here is the diagram or illustration of the central dogma, which describes the flow of genetic information within a biological system. illustrating how information is transferred from DNA to RNA and then translated into proteins. This one. You see the diagram from DNA, RNA to protein. It can be summarized into three key processes. The replication, where DNA is copied, transcription, where the information in DNA is converted into messenger RNA, and translation, where mRNA is decoded to produce proteins. Let us discuss them one by one. In the replication, ensures genetic continuity and it facilitates cell division. So here are the important enzymes and proteins: the DNA polymerase, helicase, ligase, and of course, the processes involved would be initiation, elongation, and termination. Now, what is the role of complementary base pairing in the replication? The complementary base pairing ensures that each of the new DNA strand is an exact copy of the original. However, errors are rare because A always pairs with T and G with C. So here is the complementary bases of your, the role of complementary base pairing in replication. So your C paired with G, A paired with T, and blah, 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 blah. Now, let us try to have an activity, short activity. We can just comment it on the chat box. We try to write the complementary DNA strand for each given strand of DNA. So let's have your number one. So Sir Christian answered GCATTC, GATTAAT. Okay. Do you have the same answer po with Sir Christian? I believe he is correct. Okay, how about number two? What will be the complementary DNA strand or complementary? Yes. Mabilis si Sir Christian, no? So T is paired with A, correct? C is paired with G, blah, 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 blah. And of course, for number three, AAT, TTA, check. GAA, okay. So Sir Christian is very active today. He's like an RNA. Okay, Sir Christian? Thank you very much, sir. Now, let's go to your transcription. In the transcription, this now converts genetic information into messenger RNA. And this regulates actually your gene expression. What are the enzymes and proteins being involved? Your RNA polymerase, and the processes involved are the initiation, elongation, and termination, including the role of promoters and terminators. So here, in transcription, you notice, this is now from, if I'm not mistaken, DNA to RNA. Replication is DNA to DNA, copy, exact copy. For the transcription, DNA to RNA. Now, in the RNA, there is already the substitution of the uracil. Ano po yung isusubstitute niya? It's the
thymine.
It's the thymine, kaya wala pong T sa dito. Sa ating meron pong T, yung lang complementary base. because in your transcription, A is paired with U, your T is still paired with A, and your CG and vice versa. And finally, from RNA to protein, or that is the process of translation. It now decodes the messenger RNA to produce polypeptides, and it also determines protein structure and function. So what are the enzymes and proteins involved? Your ribosomes, your tRNA, and of course, amino acids. And the processes involved is initiation, elongation, and termination. Now, what do you call the one that carries the codon sequence transcribed from DNA? What do you call that one? It carries the codon. That is your
mRNA.
That is your mRNA. How about this one brings the appropriate amino acids,
Transfer
matching its
RNA.
anticodon to the mRNA? That is your transfer nucleosecretion, or the tRNA. And finally, it is the site of protein synthesis. Where can you find protein synthesis?
rRNA.
It's on
Ribosome.
the ribosome, facilitating the reading of the messenger RNA and the binding of amino acids. How about this one? A sequence of 3 nucleotides, an mRNA that codes for an amino acid. What do you call that one? Yung AUG, UAA, UAG-UGA. What do you call that one?
Codon, sir.
It is, thank you, sir. It is the codon. And what about its complementary sequence?
Anticodon.
It's the anti or anticodon. A codon on mRNA pairs with its complementary anticodon on the tRNA. Example, mRNA codon AUG pairs with tRNA anticodon UAC. And actually, the chart is of great help for us to determine, anong tawag dito?
Genetic codes.
Opo, sorry po. This is very helpful in the central dogma of molecular biology. So we know that the start, it's always AUG, no? This one, this is the start, AUG. AUG. Kaya pala, no? August yung start ng klase kasi AUG yung start codon. Now I realize po. Diba? Kaya pala August yung start ng klase nating lahat kasi the start codon is yung August, yung AUG. And finally, the stop codon, the UAA, UAG, and UGA. So, let's have a conclusion. Complementary base pairing plays a critical role in this flow, ensuring accuracy during DNA replication and mRNA transcription. This precise pairing is also vital in translation as it allows the transfer RNA anticodons to match with the messenger RNA codons, ensuring the correct amino acids are incorporated into proteins. So this is the end of my report. I am very sorry for my lackings, my misunderstanding, and of course confusions, because I am not really inclined with this topic or with this discipline. So thank you very much and good evening once again.
Congratulations, Sir Eric. It really amazes me, no? Because you know the language of biochem, knowing na ikaw ay math ang background mo. So just quickly, akala ko we will go home early. Anyway, nag-brown out naman kanina.